This is indigenous people of Biafra. We are IPOB under one central command, under one leadership, under one directorate, under one coordination all over the world. There is only one indigenous people of Biafra. We are aware now. They want to establish fake groups. They want to deceive you. They want to cheat you. Some idiots may answer IPOB, but you must understand they are not one of us. It is the same thing as Boko Haram wearing police and army uniform to go and kill people. These people are not part of us and can never ever be. How will the products of APC? These are evil men and little boys. We must counter them wherever we see them. They are not IPOB. We have no government. The government of the indigenous people of Biafra is the indigenous people of Biafra. So when the time comes, Biafrans will vote and decide who will govern them. Until then, we are not a government. We are servants of the people, as we shall continually demonstrate. Allow me to repeat what I said before. We are not a government, I tell you. I must warn and caution you. We are the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. There is no government, there is no addition. Of course, we have an embassy, that is true. That embassy is not an organization. We don't run any other website apart from ipob.org. We don't have any other radio station on this earth apart from Radio Biafra. I'm aware that I was set up with APC. They set up 1 or 2 radio stations to answer our name as part of their subterfuge and ocean provocateur. But they will not prevail, they will not succeed. They cannot survive the heat because we are ordained, baptized in this very fire of truth and honesty. That is why we preach it without compromise. There is no other way to do it. We are the children of light. That is why we have come. Or should I say, that is why Chukukika Biama determined that we should come. That is why this evening, as always, we must preach his gospel. No particular. We must preach it to the fullest. Only those who are blessed can partake or participate. Only those that seek knowledge. Only those that seek the light. Only those that seek the truth. The seekers of wisdom, the seekers of knowledge are welcome to partake and participate. Or else you are a non-entity.
I hate criminality. I can't stand it. I said before, no banks should be touched, no church, no mosque, no business person should be touched. No business person should be touched. None should be touched. We know who our enemies are. Not these people struggling to feed their families. What type of nonsense is that? We cannot touch people who have done nothing to us. That's not how we roll. Do not touch people doing their legitimate businesses, regardless of where they come from. You cannot touch them. Please. So when something happens, we can investigate very quickly and find out. If not that we know who we are, do you think we would have found out that it was Monguno and Britain that killed Ahmed Gulak, you know what, to make it appear as if it is IPOB, so they can start killing our people? You don't understand that? We cannot give our enemies room to demonize what we are doing. That is why we cannot condone any criminal act. We cannot. And by tomorrow, we are going to repair a full lorry load of onions. Money we could have used to do more important things. We are now going to spend compensating the owner of those onions that some fools vandalized. And I will repeat what I said. If we engage in killing, Biafra will not come. That is one cardinal thing you don't do in Biafra. Go and ask anybody. Anytime you shed an Igbo blood, you kill a fellow Biafran, anything you're looking for will not come. Go and ask all of them. Starting from the death of Mbono Jike. People don't know how Mbono Jike died. The man responsible for the death of Mbono Jike, where is he? Everything he asked for, he got nothing from.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, great and wonderful people of Biafra, lovers of freedom all over the world. I greet you and I welcome you to this program. While you are joining us, share the video, invite others to join wherever you are watching from. Share this video, invite others to join. We are back again to continue where we stopped. This time around, we are coming with, exposition, and that exposition, we are going to actually have this exposition, the second part of this exposition after, because the time we have will not be enough for this exposition. It is very, very important exposition as per exactly what is going on in Nigeria. Likewise, in this picture you see here, you will see what we have in this picture. First of them is Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, and then the court verdict. Of course, we're going to actually come to that. Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and the appeal court, and the last verdict that was issued, and then the latest findings by the appeal court. And secondly, it is in the middle. Of course, you know the one on the top, it is Tinubu, because the reason why he is actually here, it is because he is the president of Nigeria as we talk, and he has joined force with whatever that has been going on in Nigeria. Now, we are going to actually expose the man in the middle. The man in the middle, of course, so many of you might not be, aware of whom the man in the middle is, but I am going to tell you whom the man in the middle is. The other one is Buhari. We are going to reiterate on the activities of Buhari, and even the man in the middle, and the Asari Dokubo, because all these things you see here, they have all connections with each other. The exposition we are going to make right now, it is connected to each other, and that is the reason why I said we will not have enough time to do this exposition. The first one is the man in the middle is the chairman of NNPC. The chairman of NNPC, his name is Mele Kolo Kyari. That is his full name, the chairman of NNPC. And the reason why you see me saying that Asari Dokubo has been, you see Asari Dokubo here. I know I don't have his full bright picture here, but that is Asari Dokubo. That's dense picture you see below. So Asari Dokubo came to tell Nigeria that it is the military that is stealing Nigeria oil. Ever since that time, I have never actually, slept about, investigating, trying to dig deep to find out exactly what is happening in Nigeria oil sector. And now I have found out exactly what is going on in the Nigeria oil sector. And the reason why also they have to use Asari Dokubo to tell you it is the military, because the syndicate that is running the oil mafia or oil theft in Nigeria, this syndicate, they are very big. And for that syndicate to be solved, you need a president that is not going to be, part of them. That is not going to be sponsored by them. Because every president you have had in Nigeria in the last 2 decades, or in the last even 3 decades, those presidents, all of them, they know exactly about this oil theft and the syndicate. Now you understand about what is going on within this oil field and the removal of subsidy. Most important thing that we are going to be touching on, it is the removal of the subsidy after we must have exposed those that are actually stealing Nigeria oil. Now we are going to now come down to the removal of the subsidy in Nigeria, because so many of you might, be wondering why is it that, people say removal of subsidy is going to help you to thrive in Nigeria. Why is the removal of subsidy being the biggest problem you have? Now, number one thing that is driving the subsidy and its removal, it is because there has never been subsidy. The subsidy was a scam. And I am going to show you exactly how it works. I'm going to show you how it works. When you talk about subsidy that has been there, it has been a scam. This subsidy was actually implemented in 1977, 7 years after the war. It was when subsidy was initiated. Now, during that time when subsidy was initiated, and the subsidy was initiated only because they want to make sure that there are companies and industries which are driven by foreign markets or foreign industries that are using Nigerians, some of the Nigerians, as their faces in order to do the trade. And those industries are the ones siphoning money in the name they are taking subsidy. And we're going to actually, tell you how they are siphoning this subsidy, because it is very, very surprising. Now, in 1977, in 1977 was when this subsidy was actually approved. It was introduced in the early 70s. In 1977 was when it was approved. I think during Obasanjo military regime, that was when the subsidy was approved. And since that time, this subsidy, they have been using it to siphon money. That is the reason why you will find many oil companies in Nigeria. Every day oil companies are coming out from places, you'll be wondering. Now, let us go to this piece that I just discovered. I discovered a piece. That piece is a very, very long piece, because now after we must have read it, we will name you the name of these companies that are beneficiaries of this subsidy since 2008. Actually, since 2008. And we will tell you how they operate, because there has never been subsidy. Subsidy does not exist. Subsidy is a game of politicians and the merchants. Subsidy is a game between politicians and the oil merchants in Nigeria, and they have used it to impoverish you. They have used it to steal from you. They have used it every time as an excuse in order to deal with your economy. Now, I will tell you now that Buhari, who siphoned a lot of money, Buhari, whom his regime was a fraudulent regime, since 2011, even when, remember, if you will remember very vividly, in 2011 or 2010, when Goodluck Jonathan tried to remove the subsidy, do you know what happened? Fuel price did not skyrocket the way it was, it is today. But there was a lot of protest in Nigeria. There was a serious protest in Nigeria. When Goodluck discovered what was going on, he tried to remove the subsidy. There was a lot of protest. And I will tell you, why do you think there hasn't been any protest right now? Why do you think there hasn't been any protest right now? We are coming there. First of all, let us go to this piece, because I don't want to We will, deal with the, case of Nnamdi Kanu, the report of Nnamdi Kanu. We will deal with it after this. We have a lot to talk about. Just pay attention and share the video. Wherever you're watching from, are you watching from YouTube? Share the video. Are you watching from Facebook? Share the video and invite others to join wherever you are watching from. Let us do it one more time. I know that, of course, we saw what happened at Enugu yesterday. And that thing that transpired in Enugu yesterday, it is something that the enemy would always want. Now, the governor of Enugu State decided to lock the shop of those who are obeying sit at home, which, in that regard, I must say that the governor of Enugu State should not do that, because if the governor of Enugu State locked the shop of these people are not obeying sit at home because they want to obey sit at home. These people are obeying sit at home because there are gunmen who comes and enforce this sit at home. That's exactly the reason why these people are obeying sit at home. So I don't think it is a wise idea for the government of Enugu State to go and start locking people's shop, because that is actually intimidation. If you are not able to provide adequate security for the people in that market, there is no way you can lock their market. In the past years, or 4 years, or 5, 8 years, in the past 2 years, this sit at home has been there, and they didn't do anything about this sit at home, and the enemy made use of this sit at home, acting as if they are the ones who are actually making people sit at home. But sometimes you find out that it is out of fear that people are sitting at home. So it is not wise to go and block the means of livelihood of our people just because they sit at home. It is not because they are listening to the criminal syndicate. If you people want to solve a problem, you start solving this problem from the grassroots. The person you need to deal with and solve, it is the criminal in Finland, who is the one bringing gunmen to intimidate people in the name of sit at home. Locking people's shops and shooting people, it is not something good to do. It is not something that is very, very advisable to do, because this is your people you are killing. Those people that died yesterday or day before yesterday, they are not any other person, but it is our people, and we don't want them to die. We are calling for the to safeguard our people, to protect our people, and integrate them into freedom. And while our enemy is making sure that they bring doom and death upon our people, we cannot play their card. The card the enemy is playing is for all these people who are, of course, you know that this government of the day, anything that is actually going to make them to lose money, it becomes a problem for them. But in this regard, this sit at home is a sit at home that you people are going to deal with, or enforcement of this sit at home. You need to deal with that enforcement, not dealing with the people who are actually running away for their lives. Because if any of them get bullet wound, I don't think that any of these governors will go and look after them in the hospital. These people are not adhering to the sit at home called by the criminal in Finland. Rather, these people are scared of their life. So they say that there is a saying in our land that says that alapundo bako onyilo erienya wako. So that is exactly the reason why people are sitting at home. Governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, stop intimidating these people. Stop intimidating these people. Because you are trying to place them in a crossfire. You are trying to place them in a crossfire. if you want to nip this in the bud, you must actually look for how to stop those people who are coming to intimidate those people in the market. And don't forget that Monday sit at home, most of the people are sitting at home for the sake of Nnamdi Kanu, because they believe it is the only way. It is not the initiation of this criminal in Finland. The criminal in Finland is just there making noise and releasing his criminals. So you need to actually deal with the criminal in Finland, not with the people. Just because you believe you cannot reach the criminal in Finland, now you are using the people as, the people who are going to pay for the crime of the criminal in Finland. Because you are doing the bidding of the criminal in Finland. This is what he always wanted. Now you close people's shop because they sat at home for one day. You close all the shops in the market. What the hell is that? That is not acceptable. And one person even died in the process, or maybe many more, because maybe I saw one person. Maybe there are many more who died. Even though the protest they were carrying out, the protest was disorganized. The protest was seriously disorganized. Regardless of their protest being disorganized and them, the protest not making any sense to me, but they don't have to, be dealt with. They don't have to die. It is within their right for them to protest, actually. Regardless of what they are protesting against or what they are protesting for, you lock their shop, for goodness sake. On Tuesday, it is the day that they feel safe to go to the market. So you don't have to lock their shop. So let me just leave it here because it is a digression. It is not the actual thing that I'm here to talk about. Let me now bring you this piece on the fuel criminality in Nigeria. Now, listen attentively because I am going to continue. I am going to be reading it out for you. Let me tell you exactly what is going on in Nigeria about the fuel subsidy. Listen to the truth of the fuel subsidy. The shocking truth about fuel subsidy fraud. Listen attentively. If you have a pen and paper, you write down your point that you are going to pick up from this piece. This month, the report dives into the murky world of one of the world's biggest national frauds. National frauds. That's what it is called. The billions that are being siphoned out by unscrupulous traders and officials abusing the fuel subsidy system. The full shocking scale of the fraud has only just emerged into the daylight and it reveals outrageous. Now let's find out what exactly it reveals. Report dives into the murky world of one of the world's biggest national frauds, the billions that are being siphoned out by unscrupulous traders and officials abusing the fuel subsidy system. The full shocking scale of the fraud has only just emerged into the daylight and reveals outrageous scams that are bleeding the Nigerian people dry. Report by John Beatty. Despite several years of impressive economic growth, political and financial scandals continue to dominate the headlines in Nigeria. Yet no single factor is worth more to the country's economy than the battle over fuel subsidy. It has long been known that the practice of subsidizing petrol and diesel prices was a major drain on the national budget, and that the process encouraged criminals' activities. However, the full cost of the practice and the scale of the scam surrounding it have only become apparent in recent months. Here are three statistics that should shock any reader. Three statistics that should shock you. Firstly, the government of Nigeria pays subsidies on 59 million liters of fuel a day, while the country consumes just 35 million liters of fuel a day. The government paid 59 million liters. According to the government report, they pay 59 million liters, while the consumption of petrol per day in Nigeria is only 35 million liters. Who is stealing 15 million liters of subsidy? This is just the beginning. Secondly, the government paid or owed $14 billion in subsidy in 2011, up to 154% on the previous year, and almost two-thirds the amount of Abuja's entire budget for the year, which stood at $22 billion. Thirdly, the number of companies importing fuel increased from 6 in 2006 to 140 by 2011. That was when they discovered exactly what this fuel subsidy is all about. How even government started planting their own people all over the place. But let me continue to read because it is very, very long. Suggesting that there are huge profits to be made from the trade. Successive governments have tried to lift the subsidies. The most recent attempt was made in January 2012 when President Goodluck Jonathan decided to remove all state support, increasing the official price of diesel from $0.40 per liter to 0.86 cents or dollar per liter overnight. Street protest and a general strike persuaded the government. Did you hear that? Street protest and general strikes. Remember, I want you to now remember what dollar was during the time of Goodluck Jonathan. Then $0.86 is how much? To compare to what the petrol is being sold at right now. Petrol is being sold at $1 per liter. If I am not mistaken, $1 equivalent to $1 per liter. If I am not mistaken, if I am right with the conversion of dollars. Now, if you remember the price, the exchange rate during the time of Goodluck Jonathan, and you remember that $0.40, which is like the way you have your the 0.40 cents and in dollar, and then it climbed to 86 cents in dollar, and overnight then there was a street protest and a general strike persuaded the government to reinstate half of the subsidy. This is typical of most attempts. No government has sought to phase out the subsidy gradually over a long period of time, suggesting that some have even set out to fall. It had previously been difficult to calculate the scale of the fuel subsidy scam because of the lack of transparency in the oil industry, including within the state-owned Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC. This now brings us, before I continue further, this now brings us to introduce to you this man called Mele Kolo Kyari. Did you see him in the middle? Mele Kyari, that is the chairman of NNPC. That is the reason why we are still going to continue. But now, this is the chairman of NNPC, and it says that there is no transparency in running day-to-day activities of NNPC, which is petrol industry does not have transparency because whoever that climbs the position of leadership install their own people into the position of NNPC. And at the end of the day, we are also coming to Tinubu. We are also coming to Tinubu because he has a lot also to, there are many things he needs to answer to Nigeria. Now, this man called Mele Kyari is the chairman of NNPC. And the report has it that there is no, transparency. So whatever they do, anything they are doing, they are no, they cannot be, be investigated. There are no people who are actually investigating what these people are doing. They do what they want, they like. Anything they do is what actually they want to do. And now you ask yourself, why wouldn't there be a fraud in the name of fuel subsidy? Why wouldn't there be fraud in the name of fuel subsidy? When NNPC controls what they control without giving account to anybody. Now you ask yourself, why is it that after Buhari's regime, before we proceed, after Buhari's regime, the man that is targeted is Emefiele and not Mele Kyari Kolo, who is the chairman of NNPC, where Nigeria primary source of GDP rely on him to produce and to actually oversight. So this man is supposed to give even Nigeria the report as per who is stealing oil in Nigeria. This man is supposed to be giving Nigeria account of who is benefiting from fuel subsidy that never existed. So let me pause it there. We are still coming to that place. After the government backed down in January 2012, it commissioned a number of investigations into the oil industry, fuel import and retailing. Most have now reported, including the House of Representatives Committee and the Petroleum Revenue Special Task Force. The latter's report was finally made public at the end of October after a series of leaks. Until recently, Abuja attributed the high cost of subsidy to the high international price of oil. Did you hear that? They attributed it to the high international price of oil. The rising number of vehicles in the country and the exchange rate fluctuation, there is little doubt now, however, that crime is in large part to blame. Why subsidies exist? Why subsidies exist? This is a question. The government and the trade union movement agree that fuel subsidies have been maintained in order to allow the population as a whole to benefit from the nation's biggest industry. This is true in that the subsidy reduced the cost of motor and cooking fuel, while also depressing the price of the many goods that are transported around the country by road, which this was introduced in 1977, in 1970s, early 70s, and it was it was actually signed also by Obasanjo in 1977 during military regime. Now, I want you to know, I want us to actually look into this. Look into this. To allow the population as a whole to benefit from the nation's biggest industry. This is true. In that subsidy, reduce the cost of motor and cooking fuel, while also depressing the price of the many goods that are transported around the country by road. Now, if this subsidy was actually in existence, it will be fighting inflation. Do you hear that? If subsidy is in existence even during the time of Buhari, your inflation and cost of living was not going to be so high the way it became during the time of Buhari. Now let's continue to read. Although it is generally opposed by the IMF, it is generally opposed by what? IMF. Why would IMF oppose what is going to help people in Nigeria? And why is IMF involved? The same policy is followed by many other governments across Africa. That I agree. True. In addition, there is general agreement that most Nigerians have not benefited from country's natural resources to any great extent because of decades of corruption and mismanagement. However, this argument falls down because the subsidies are not usually paid on Nigeria oil. Did you hear that? But on imported fuel. On imported fuel. Now let's detail it. Nigeria's subsidy system almost seems designed to enable corruption. Did you hear that? Nigeria's subsidy system almost seems designed to enable corruption. And Britain has a lot of role to play in it. As traders submit their own subsidy application based on the amount of refined petrol product, such as petrol and diesel, which they import into Nigeria. Listen to this. They are actually the traders, those merchants, those people who import petrol, who were given license to import petrol. Like I told you, this thing is okane kenaka. It is not everybody that will obtain such license. And it is the same government that issue these licenses. And they issue it at a cost. They issue it to their own people. Now, Nigeria's subsidy system now was designed to enable corruption. Now, I am going to now come to what corruption it enables. For you to know that subsidy is a scam. Now, as traders submit their own subsidy application based on amount of refined petroleum product, such as petrol and diesel, which they import into Nigeria. Number one reason why, a primary reason why it is not in this report, but I'm telling you, common sense, why you should know that petrol subsidy is a scam in Nigeria. It is, first of all, you need to ask Nigeria, why is Nigeria importing petrol? When Nigeria closed down their refineries, instead of that amount of money they claim they are putting into subsidy, why can't they use it? They say that they are paying 59 million liter per day. They pay 59 million liter per day when it was 35 million per day. That's what Nigeria consume, but the government tell you they pay 59 million liter of subsidy per day. Now, that's by the way. That money they put into subsidy, is it not enough to build a refinery in Nigeria? Or to make sure that the refinery you have in Nigeria is standard and working? Is that money not enough? So why is this government not saving themselves the trouble of, building this refinery in order to curb the fuel subsidy that they are using to siphon money through their own agents? Listen to it. They import it. The companies that is from overseas, they come and explore raw material, raw oil, crude oil, and they export it. at a very, very low cost. And now you have to import it at a very, very high cost. Remember, while you are importing this petrol and crude oil, which is supposed to, petrol and the diesel, finished product and kerosene, you are as well importing inflation. From whichever country, you are importing their inflation. From whichever country it is coming from. Now, to subsidize it, they claim they have put a subsidy. Listen to the story now. Firstly, they can exaggerate the volume of fuel imported. Remember, they actually, you know, they submit their own application based on the amount of refined product, such as petrol and diesel, which they imported into the country. They will now compile the amount and submit to claim from the subsidy. Firstly, they can exaggerate the volume of fuel imported. Secondly, subsidies have been paid on large import consignment that do not even exist. Did you hear that? That do not even exist. This is from a very, very reliable source. That's why I'm not bringing it to this thing, to your screen. It is from a reliable source. Now listen to it. In one case, 15 import firms received subsidy worth of $300 million without importing any fuel at all. Did you hear that? At all. Thirdly, the system encourages the practice of round tripping, whereby traders load refined fuel onto tankers to take it briefly outside Nigeria, territorial waters, before offloading it at a Nigerian port. This is what they do. I will clear it up to you. Then these people, when they import petrol, what they do is that they take this petrol, they will not offload all. They will take the petrol, they go to another country. They will carry it in the vessel, travel to another country. A petrol that is already, they have already collected subsidy for. They take it, they travel to another country, the same petrol, come back. Then they write it as the ones they have imported currently. They will now take it again with another vessel to go into another country and come out. Come back again. In the name we have imported again. Then they submit form for subsidy. The government officials who are supposed to be the ones monitoring all these things, the DSS who are supposed to be the ones monitoring all these things, they are seeing it. But it is something that everybody, they will share amongst themselves, because there is never subsidy. Subsidy does not exist. It is a scam that they implemented in order to make sure that there will be no benefit. There is nothing that is going to bring economic stability and growth in Nigeria. The fact that we are actually exposing this is not going to stop them from doing it. Because Nigeria, just is created so that there will be no benefit or economic stability or growth in it. That's why Nigeria is created by Britain. And now we are going to now extend this exposition for you to see the role of Britain and the USA as well. Listen. Before offloading it again at the port, Nigerian port, they make a round trip. They write it, we have imported again. They come back, they take another petrol which is already there, go outside the border, come back again in the border, offload it, we have imported again. Okay, this allowed them to claim subsidy twice, or to claim the subsidy on fuel that has been illicitly refined at one of the Nigeria hundreds of illegal small-scale refineries. Did you hear that? So the refineries, those bunkeries that people do, the same petrol that is that is actually they realize from bunkering, illegal bunkering, according to them, is now collecting subsidy as well. Now you will come to tell us is now collecting subsidy as well. Let's continue. Being illicit refined at one of the hundreds of illegal small-scale refinery, the same cargo can even be round-tripped several times in succession. Several times. The same cargo ship will go around several times in the name. They take from Nigeria, bunkering, local manufactured. They go out, they come in. The Nigerian Military Joint Task Force located and destroyed almost 300 such refineries over a 15-week period in the Niger Delta alone in 2008. Finally, some scammers altered the date of their fuel import in order to benefit from the higher oil price. Nigeria is in a very strange position, so that you will know when this thing started. Nigeria is in a very strange position. It is the biggest oil producer in Africa, but refines little of its own output and is forced to rely on import to satisfy most of its fuel requirements. Even according to the Ministry of Petroleum, estimates about 70% of the country's fuel need are imported. These 70% are imported with inflation. It is also the only major oil exporter in the world that markets none of its crude oil directly to refineries, but rather opts to sell its entire product to commodity traders. Now you ask yourself, why would they sell their entire product to commodity traders at a very minimal price, and they will import it at a very high price? So if any government or whoever that sits in position of leadership tells you that they do not know the reason why they can, they do not, benefit from this so-called fuel subsidy removal or fuel subsidy fixation, believe you me, that person is lying. Even if Tinubu come into the position of power and decide that now we are going to remove fuel subsidy, believe you me, it is also a scam. And because the reason why you should know that it is a scam, listen very attentively. It is that once you remove fuel subsidy in Nigeria, the fuel price is not supposed to climb up the way it actually, went up. Do you know why? Because subsidy does not exist. It is a means of corruption that was introduced. Some of these companies that are actually doing these businesses, they are doing it with international organizations. They're doing it with international organizations. They are one of the beneficiaries of this. There has never been fuel subsidy that is being paid to direct people. The government of the day benefit from these fuel subsidies. That is the reason why immediately when this fuel subsidy is removed, they increase the price of the pump. Do you know why they increase the price of the pump? You are now the one paying this fuel subsidy to the scammers. Are you paying attention? Removal of fuel subsidy now directly affect you because now you are directly paying that fuel subsidy. So there is nothing like remove or fix. It doesn't exist. You are still paying those criminals who go and they take their cargo ship, go back and forth, and they claim the price. So when the price in the fuel pump increased, that means you are now the one funding the subsidy. There is no longer government responsibility. Government, that money that was meant for this subsidy, they claim they've been paying for this subsidy, is now going into the pocket of the government officials. It is directly going into the pocket of the government officials, because if there is a removal of fuel subsidy, and petrol price went from where it was to almost 700. Tell yourself, who is benefiting? Who is benefiting from it? Goodluck Jonathan tried it. Petrol went up. It didn't even went up to 200. I think it went up to 200. No, it went up to 150 or 100 and something. Massive protest all over the country. There was protest, but today it went to 700. And the reason why Tinubu actually implemented the removal of fuel subsidy so quickly is for people to think that he is working. It is for IMF to open door for Tinubu to take more loans. Are you paying attention? It is for IMF to open door for Tinubu to take more loans. Remember from the beginning of this article, IMF does not like that fuel subsidy. So when you removal of fuel subsidy, it is actually bringing more taxation. That is called indirect tax to the economy or to the pocket of the political leaders or to the politicians, which now create more avenue for IMF to see the reason why they will give you more money in a loan while you are selling the country into debt. You are now exchanging these things and selling the country into debt that will never be paid off. Nigeria is already sitting at more than $100 billion. IMF is now happy. IMF will now soon deliver a fake report, because what they will do is they will, of course, you know their rating agencies. What is their rating agencies? Is JAC or Moody. They will rate you and that you have economies, your economy have gained traction in the first quarter of, on the second quarter of 2023 or the third quarter of 2023, which maybe is where we are at right now. That your economy has gained traction after the fuel subsidy removal, just to open door for you to come for more debt, so that you will be overly indebted to them. That is how they roll. But those who does not have qualification to run to run even small or medium businesses, they are actually placed in the position to run economy of a nation. Those people who does not know what it takes to run a small or medium enterprises is now running economy of a nation. At the end of the day, that's why this World Bank and IMF, they will always come to tell you your economy has gained, because you don't know how to do the statistics, you don't know how to calculate, you don't know when you gain traction or when you gain contraction, your economy, you don't know them. So whatever their rating agencies tell you, it's what you will believe. Even though you are drowning in debt, you are dying, if there is no job, you didn't create job, there is nothing that has to grow this economy, they come and tell you it is a fake report. Now, why is the pump price up to almost 700 naira? When they tell you they remove the subsidy, who is catering for the subsidy? It is you, Okada man. It is you, a motorist. It is you, a commuter. Because when the price of your transportation is gone up, so it is indirect to everybody now. You are the one. Now, where is that budget that has been made for this subsidy that is being removed? Where is it? They couldn't use it to give you palliative, because this budget sits at $14 billion or $14 million. We are going to read it. Let's continue. Let's find out if he couldn't give you a palliative. then they have to go and take money for palliative, even though they have saved this money. They pay it per day. I think we will find out how much they pay per day. Just let's continue reading. It is also major oil exporter in the world that markets none of its crude oil directly to refineries, but rather they opt to sell its entire product to commodity traders. Oh. This means there is a very little transparency from one end to the process to another, to the other. NNPC. This one is when Mele Kiari Kolo is going to come in for questioning. DSS haven't seen him. DSS is there fighting who will take a mifere. But where there is a need for DSS to work, DSS are supposed to be working on the high profile, crime such as this. Although it is difficult to prove, there must be direct links between the subsidy scam and Nigeria's persistent failure to refine more of its own crude oil production. Many oil producing states need to import more specialist sort of refined petroleum product. Did you hear that? That is what is hindering the state from building refinery to refine the product that they have. Rather, they shut down the refineries that they have. Every president that goes into the position of power, be it PDP, be it APC, they are all in this syndicate. They run this syndicate. They know that it does not matter who is there today. Tomorrow it might be me that will be there. So they protect themselves in this syndicate. They continue to nurture this syndicate of fuel subsidy and its criminality, and make sure that they will never produce or provide the refinery to produce this fuel, so that there will be no longer required subsidy. They will no longer require subsidy in the name they are giving you in a cheap price. But Nigeria should be self-sufficient or even net exporter of petrol and diesel. They're supposed to be sufficient. They're supposed to have enough for themselves. Nigeria is supposed to have enough for themselves. Nigeria is supposed to even be exporting fuel, finished product, which is supposed to terminate the inflation, high inflation that you find yourself grappling with, which brings to you high cost of living, because each time you import petrol, you import inflation. However, the NNPC's 4 refineries have produced far less than their official combined production capacity of. Remember, did you hear that? NNPC produced far less than the official combined production capacity of 445,000 barrels a day. For many years, if not decades, each new government promises to invest in their modernization or to ensure the construction of new refineries by private sector operators. Tenders for the development of new facilities are offered every few years, and sometimes reports appear that they have been awarded on each occasion. Little progress is made and the import dependency continues. Have you now seen? It is a government thing. Like I said, APC, PDP, they are all aware of this thing. It is what is actually driving their profit. That's where they are stealing from. So they cannot make it to they no fee cast them. If you cast them, if you go there, you no go understand them. We are still coming to how they have used Asari Dokubo in order to divert the attention of people to exactly who is the oil thief. We are coming to that. The NNPC continue to act if refineries were fully operational, taking crude oil that would otherwise have been used as feedstock by the refineries and as exchanging this elsewhere for fuel. Did you hear that? According to the government investigation, the NNPC admitted that it even know where 65,000 barrel per day of this refining allocation actually ended up. NNPC say it does not know. If he does not know, who knows? Imagine what they tell to the public. He does not know. It was also revealed that the NNPC paid 310 billion naira, which is $2 billion in kerosene subsidy. Did you see how much they spent only in kerosene subsidy? $2 billion in kerosene subsidy between 2009 and 2011, within the interval of 2-3 years. Within the interval of 2-3 years, $2 billion. Despite the fact that the kerosene subsidy was abolished prior to 2009, kerosene subsidy was abolished before they say they paid 2 billion in kerosene subsidy. Kerosene subsidy was abolished in 2009 by Jonathan. Jonathan's plan to unbundle and reform the NNPC is clearly not before time. The subsidy also encouraged cross-border fuel smuggling. Fuel of all kinds has historically been cheaper in Nigeria than in the rest of the region, so vast amount of Nigeria petrol and diesel is regularly smuggled into neighboring states by both sea and land. A large proportion of the petrol and diesel consumed in neighboring states, and particularly in Benin, comes from Nigeria. The money generated by this trade is diverted from government coffers across the region. It is diverted from government coffers across the region, and it is sometimes used to fund other criminal activities. Did you see the report? Did you hear that? It is used to afford other criminal activities. Many of the facts uncovered by the House of Representatives Committee and the PRSTF reports are truly appalling. They are truly disgusting. Look at it. For instance, they state that the Accountant General made 128 fuel subsidy payments. Each of them is 999 million naira, which is equivalent to $6.3 million approximately within 24 hours over the 12th and the 13th of January 2009, totaling 127.872 billion naira, which is $113 million. It is highly unlikely that 128 consecutive fuel consignment of exactly the same value would have been imported such as short period. In addition, the recipient of the payment have not yet been identified. All 140 importers were asked to appear before the House Committee or to provide written evidence to legitimize their activities. A shocking 45 failed to do either. These are the ghosts. Just like you see ghost workers all over the place. That's how the government of the day normally plays it. Listen, the House investigation reported, contrary to the statutory requirement and other guidelines under the Petroleum Support Fund scheme, mandating agencies in the industry to keep reliable information database. There seemed to be a deliberate understanding among the agencies not to do so. Did you see that? They cannot put that report. Let me read it again for you for your consumption. The House investigation reported, contrary to statutory requirements and other guidelines under the Petroleum Support Fund scheme, mandating agencies in the industry to keep a reliable information database. Therefore, there seemed to be a deliberate understanding among these agencies not to do so, so that there will be no trace to this corruption. The subsidy regime as operated between the period under review, 2009 and 2011, was fraught with endemic corruption and entrenched inefficiency. It is therefore apparent that the insistence by top government official, did you hear that? By top government official that the subsidy figures were for product consumed was a clear attempt to mislead the Nigeria people. Did you hear that? It is therefore apparent that the insistence by top government officials that the subsidy figures were for product consumed was a clear attempt to mislead Nigeria people. Did you hear that? Oh. It added, false claims were rampant. The scheme became an avenue for all forms of patronage, a record that can hardly be reviled in the history of warped budget management of any nation anywhere in the world. Unsurprisingly, the committee investigation has attracted a great deal of controversy. Committee chairman Farouk Lawan, did you hear who is the committee chairman? Farouk Lawan said, "We were threatened several times in so many ways. We were told that we were not going to live long enough to even finish the exercise. They were death threats, very clearly death threats. Fortunately, we were still around." Now, if they were threatened from that time, they were threatened by whom? Who is bigger than the person who is the commander-in-chief of the armed force in Nigeria? If the commander-in-chief really wanted to curb this corruption, if he is not part of the corruption, and these people were threatened, and they claim that it was as a result of the threat, that's why these things still exist. Okay, let's continue. They were death threat, very clearly death threat. Fortunately, we were still around. Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, said we are fighting against entrenched interests whose infectious greed has decimated our people. Therefore, be mindful, they will fight back. And they normally do fight dirty. That is the excuse. The wider picture of petrol crime is equally grim. The PRSTF agreed with estimate by Obi Ezekwesili, the World Bank's ex-vice president for Africa, that Nigeria had lost $400 billion to oil industry-related crimes since independence. Since what? Independence. So who implemented that system? If it is since independence, it means it is a system that was implemented by Britain. Have you now seen the reason why each time I come online, I tell you that you cannot build on a shaky foundation, on a foundation that you did not know how many story building it is going to contain, and you are blindly building on that foundation. That is the reason why that foundation will continue to swallow you without you ever integrating into an industrialization. Rather, they will continue to do industrialized nation. That's why you don't have refinery. Refinery is part of the industrialization. So they de-industrialized you. It is Britain that is making sure that all these things happen. They sabotage them prior to the time they are handing you over independence. From the time they orchestrated the rig of election 1959 to the time they manipulated the census 1963. So, for you to understand exactly what is going on in Nigeria, since independent, you have lost more than $400 billion. $400 billion. It can build you electricity, it can build you good roads, it can build you hospitals. That the five-star, I'm talking about five-star stuff. I'm not talking about 2-star or 3-star. 5-star, this $400 billion. It will build you great infrastructure, invest in, industrialize Nigeria. This money could do that. Where is it going? Direct and indirect. To the hands of the agents of these neo-colonialists. Listen, they also concluded that 40% of all fuel that is imported or refined in Nigeria is lost to sabotage and or theft. This is not marginal problem. Ending fuel subsidy racket would not put a stop to all oil sector corruption, but it would be good place to start. Upstream, refining and downstream corruption is all interlinked. Now, so many of you will argue or will say that Tinubu ended the fuel subsidy because he wants to end corruption. Ending fuel subsidy is not supposed to bring fuel price up, because fuel subsidy is a scam. It never existed. These prices are the things that people just set in their palms. These prices are the prices that this committee of criminals, they just gather together and tell themselves, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get these subsidies from you, Okada man. We're going to get this subsidy from you, taxi drivers. We're going to get this subsidy from you, bus drivers and the owners. That is exactly what they did. This is not ending fuel subsidy. It is diverting the headache to the people, to the marginalized demography, or marginalized Nigeria people. Because everybody in Nigeria is already marginalized. Now, he did not remove the subsidy. He diverted the burden of the subsidy to your shoulder. That is what he did. Do you or do not believe? You might not believe it because you don't understand these things. But let's continue to read. Maybe you will believe it when you hear the rest of what we are reading here. On more positive note, 2011 could be high watermark of the subsidy scandal because of the reduction in subsidy in early 2012. Figure from the Petroleum Product Pricing Regulatory Agencies, PPPRA, revealed that the government spent 679 billion naira, $4.2 billion on fuel subsidy over the 10 months January-October 2012, roughly half the 1.3 trillion naira, $8.3 billion spent in the same period in 2011. This appears to reflect the 50% reduction in the level of fuel subsidies, rather than any fall in subsidy-related corruption. However, the executive secretary of PPPRA, Reginald Stanley, says that his organization has reduced the number of marketing companies to 38. He added, "We successfully cleaned out 90 companies while setting stringently regulatory conditions, which would make it difficult for marketers to short-change the system. Our efforts have not stopped here, as we are more than determined to refer any matter to the Economic and Financial Crime Commission should we notice any infraction. This is EFCC. That time, during the time of Goodluck, that's when they started trying to fight this crime of oil, oil crime, petroleum crime. They try until now Buhari came in. Listen, political will in Abuja is certainly the key element in ending the fuel subsidy scam. Did you hear it? They call it scam. It is political will in Abuja. Did you hear that? So it means that the political will, it is not only to end the subsidy, but to end the scam called the subsidy, which they have not ended. They diverted it right now. In the name, they are implementing new thing. The big question is whether those implicated will face trial and then imprisonment. They will not face trial or imprisonment because they are the government. If convicted, no significant player have been jailed to date. Finance Minister Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala had suspended payment of 161 billion and 387 billion million dollars in subsidy during 2012. That's when she told you her story when they kidnapped her father. Did you hear that? When they kidnapped her father, if you heard that story, that was when, in 2012, when she stopped this subsidy payment. However, international cooperation is also needed. The Nigeria government had sought help from Swiss oil trading firm, but they refused to provide the requested information. Wow. Swiss. Have you now seen the implementation of the subsidy? The time of the implementation after the war. The time of the implementation after the war. Britain has a lot of role to play in your downfall in the oil corruption industry. They have a lot of role. That's why Swiss oil trading firm, they refuse to provide the requested information during the time that somebody who wanted to fight this corruption was in position of leadership. Have you now seen the reason why Goodluck Jonathan, all forces from the high places, removed him? Did you hear that? That's how he was removed. So anybody that sits in that position for 8 years, successfully towards their own selfish aggrandizement, it is as a result of them working in line with the thieves. It's as a result of them doing the bidding of those who are actually, parasite on your economy, that it may never grow. Without criminal activities, there are surely better ways for Nigeria government to spend its money. There are surely better ways for Nigeria government to spend its money than subsidizing the cost of fuel. This money could better used in countless other ways, from health and education spending to investing in much needed infrastructure and topping up the government excesses crude account ECA to ensure future economic stability. Even in a period of high oil prices, Abuja may be forced to utilize its ECA this year merely to balance the book. There has never been an account that is balanced in Nigeria, because all from the top to the bottom, they are all corrupt. Many Nigerians agree that subsidizing fuel is not the best use for money, but fear that any diverted fund will not be spent for the benefit of the Nigerians. It is widely argued that some within the political and economic elite would merely find another way to siphon off the money. That is the same thing they have found now, to siphon the money, that is so-called subsidy money, and place it on your shoulder. Just over 12 months ago, Jonathan promised to invest the money saved on fuel subsidy in education, health, and power project. Although the ensuring protest had a political element, many people clearly did not believe him. Now, I want you to understand that he wanted to use the money to improve your infrastructure and education system. Now, the Tinubu came in. We are comparing the time of fighting the scam of subsidy. And now that it is removed, he is trying to introduce student loan. And introducing student loan is going to increase school fees. There will be an increment towards the school fees. The student loan is a futuristic burden upon your shoulder. So when you graduate, you will be overly indebted to the government. Instead of using the money for subsidy to build a refinery, he hasn't told you, he did not tell you where he is going to divert the fund that is supposed to be going to the subsidy. He didn't tell you he's going to divert it to build refinery. He never told you he's going to divert it to infrastructure. He never told you he's going to improve your education system. No, he didn't tell you. He told you he is implementing student loan. So you are going to use the money, maybe the money that is belonging to the subsidy. The government will use it to do business on their own people. You take loan, you pay it with interest. Because every loan comes with a price. Or you don't believe? Every loan comes with a price. Let's continue. Nevertheless, as non-governmental organization Human Rights Watch has argued, reducing petrol crime will not in itself necessarily improve government spending practices, but the diversion of the revenue before they reach government coffers means that there is not even the possibility that these resources will be used for the public benefit. Did you hear it? Let me read it again. Nevertheless, as non-governmental organization Human Rights Watch has argued, reducing petrol crime will not in itself necessarily improve government spending practices, but the diversion of the revenue before they reach government coffers means that there is not even the possibility that these resources will be used for the public benefit. Accepting continued corruption should not be an option for Nigerian people. Accepting continuous corruption should not be an option for Nigerian people. But it has become an option for Nigerian people. Just like you may all see that these things is something that you've become used to. Now, if you look at this fuel subsidy that you have seen today, that has been placed on your shoulder, you will find people continue to say, we will navigate it. Very soon they get used to it. They will be bleeding and paying it. They won't do anything. Those who supported Jagaban, how far? Are you not feeling it? Or did Tinubu create a petrol pump for you people separately? Probably he is trying to do it because maybe he heard during the campaign, some people said they will remove fuel subsidy. Remember that when you want to buy into people's initiative, you don't know what was their plan. You might not, it might become a disaster if you try to buy into people's initiative without understanding the primary, plan, just for them to try to act like they are doing something. In other words, they are trying to enrich themselves. Whatever they have spent during the election, malpractices, during the bribery of election processes, during the INEC, what INEC has siphoned or have extorted from them, they are using all this money to replenish in the name the country is under segregation. That's what you will be hearing. The country is under segregation. You will start reaping the benefit of this fuel subsidy removal in coming years. without you knowing that once an person on Aramano, you will only tell a fool that your country, Nigeria, is under segregation because there is a new government, there is a fuel subsidy removal. It is only a fool that they will have to tell such thing. There is no such thing like country is under segregation. Country is going through a tough time, the biggest time of corruption, because the beginning of the governance is when they start replenishing their pocket, because they will believe you will still give them time believing something will change. By the time you will be giving them time believing something will change, it is only the period of time where you are going to get numb to what they have implemented. You get used to it. You start complaining and waiting for the next 4 years. That's how it works. Now let us look into exactly. I have shown you the fuel subsidy scam. I have shown you. Now let us go into those who benefited from this fuel subsidy. Let us go into those who benefited from this fuel subsidy scam. That is the reason why we are going into those who benefited from it. Because I want to prove to you that all of them in government, they have all benefited. Now, during this time, those who have benefited from fuel subsidy scam, number one is Owando. I don't know if any of you knows Owando Nigeria PLC. Owando Nigeria PLC. Owando. Owando Nigeria PLC was a company that is found by Wale Tinubu. Do you know who? How many of you know who is Wale Tinubu? Wale Tinubu is the founder of Owando. They were working with Texas Oil, Texaco, which is owned by a Texas, by Texas Oil, Texas from United States. That's where they were working with. They were working with these two, this company before founding this Owando Oil. The CEO is Wale Tinubu. Tinubu is his uncle. Tinubu is his uncle. So when Tinubu come to tell you he's not into oil business, maybe not directly, but indirect. That is the person that one of those who have benefited from this fuel subsidy. Now you find another one called Mrs. Is it Mrs. Oil? No, not Owando, sorry. Owando never dealt with Texaco. Sorry, that's a mistake. It is Mrs. Oil that dealt with Texaco. Mrs. Oil dealt with Texaco, not Owando. Owando is Tinubu is the uncle of this Owando. Uncle to the Owando, the founder of Owando. Tinubu is his uncle. So, Mrs. Oil is the second one who worked with the United States Texaco. Mrs. Oil, the founder of this Texaco, it was owned by Joseph Colliner and Thomas J. and Arnold and the other Douglas. And then Mrs. Oil worked with Texaco before they actually found Mrs. Oil. And who is the owner of this Mrs. Oil is Mike. No, not Mike. It is somebody from the north. I can't remember the name of this Mrs. Oil, but it is somebody from the north. Is it somebody from the north or somebody from the west? I think it is somebody from west. They benefited from this fuel subsidy also. Now there is corn oil. Corn oil benefited from the fuel subsidy. Corn oil is owned by Mike Adenuga. When you start looking at, for where all these rich people you see in Nigeria, you ask yourself, where are these people making their money from? They call themselves billionaire. These people are billionaires that are benefiting from corruption that is engulfing Nigeria. Now, I might not be able to tell you the owner, but if you get pen and paper, we'll call their name. You actually go and find out who are the owners. There are many of them. All of them, most of them are connected to one politician to the other. I only have 30 minutes to round up before. So let me call it from beginning. Owando Nigeria PLC, Mrs. Oil, Pinnacle Construction, Enac Oil, Corn Oil, Bovas and Co. Nigeria Limited, Obat Oil, and then, okay, let me tell you how much they benefited even as at this time of this report. As at the time of this report, let me tell you how much they have benefited. As at time of this report, 2011-2012. From that time, they benefited this amount. Wonder how much they have benefited the whole regime of Buhari. Under Owando Oil Nigeria PLC benefited 228.506 billion naira. Mrs. Oil benefited 224.818 billion naira. Pinnacle Construction benefited 300 billion naira. Enac Oil and Gas benefited 19.684 billion naira. Corn Oil benefited 37.960 billion naira. Bovas and Co. Nigeria Limited benefited 5.685 billion naira. Obat Oil benefited 85 billion and AP Oil benefited 104.5 billion naira. Folawiyo Oil benefited 113.3 billion. Ipman Investment Limited benefited 10.9 billion naira. Akon Oil benefited 24.1 billion naira. Achio Oil benefited 64.4 billion naira. AMP Oil benefited 11.4 billion naira. Honeywell Oil benefited 12.2 billion naira. Emac Oil benefited 19.2 billion naira. D. Jones Oil benefited 14.8 billion naira. Capital Oil benefited 22.4 billion naira. AZ Oil benefited 18.613 billion naira. Eternal Oil benefited 5.57 billion. Dozy Oil benefited 3.375 billion. Just one moment. $3.375 billion. Fort Oil benefited 8.58 billion. Integrated Oil and Gas benefited 30.777 billion naira. Now, the investigation that I am going to now conduct and come back, it is to find out who and who. Of course, you know, Capital Oil belongs to, I believe, is it Ifeanyi? Yeah, I will find out who and who owns these oil companies that are part of those who are claiming they are importing and claiming subsidy. Now, we're going to find out to see if indeed there is an international company thereof and their relatives. We are going to find out their what actually role they play in the Nigeria government. We are going to find out so that we will know who exactly is actually screwing you over in Nigeria in the name that they are paying subsidy. Of course, the federal government is involved because some of their relatives are collecting. Now, you ask yourself, in all these things, Mele Kolokiari in this time around, having seen the challenges that was faced in 2011 to 2012 before Buhari regime comes in, Mele Kyari is supposed to be giving Nigeria the account, an investigation, collecting investigation if really they wanted to stop oil criminal in Nigeria. Why is Mele Kyari not brought in for questioning? Mele Kyari, why is he not brought in for questioning? But the CBN governor was taken in for questioning. You saw what was transpiring 3 days ago, where DSS and these other ones, correctional center, is fighting who is going to take this man, who is going to take this man. You see petty nonsense cases that doesn't even, innocent people who are not even supposed to be brought into the limelight. They are the ones, just because they are Biafrans. So it is done because they are Biafrans. Now you ask yourself, Mele Kyari, who is in a position to improve Nigeria economy by making sure there is accountability in the Nigeria oil sector, because Mele Kyari is the chairman of NNPC. Now let us find out exactly what is the role of this NNPC. What is the role of NNPC? Let us find out. Our time is running out, but we are going to actually, I'm going to bring back, we must continue. I will bring it back. I will not end it. Now, let me find out the role of NNPC. The roles of NNPC: to determine and fix the price of product. NNPC fix the price of petrol. So they fix that. If NNPC does not have role to play, and when you talk about NNPC, you talk about government, because they fix the price of this product, including the price in the pump and the price of these imported oils. Now, they determine and fix the price of products. They ensure a regular supply of product. Well, it's all about petrol product. To govern all activities in the production industry. NNPC. Govern all activities in production industry, so they are in a position to give account of every production and the oil exploration, everything. They are in a position to actually give account of all this, to supervise all operations of the gas production industry. So if NNPC Mele Kyari Kolo is not brought into question, yet the Nigeria government knows quite well that there is a lot of crime in the oil industry, and this chairman of the the company that do oversight in every oil production, in every oil exploration, in every oil pricing, the chairman is not brought to question, is not giving Nigerians answering question that many Nigerians are asking. It is problematic. That is where you should actually focus your attention, to understand that there are many things to it. Now, that brings me to the video. Just one moment.
Well, I can tell you for free.
That brings me to the video by going to the oil theft. There is a video that I've come across. I know so many of you must have seen this video. but it actually pushed me to actually do further investigation towards this oil product and its scandals. Let me just try to download that video. Just one moment, one moment. So let us see this video. Let us hear from this.
Well, I can tell you for free that that vehicle was burnt because it was cheaper to burn it than to rein in the...
Now, I hope so many of you still remember. I hope that so many of you still remember the time there was a vessel that was caught in the name of this vessel was oil. You know, they stole oil. These are the people stealing oil. And the vessel that was caught, it was set alight. And I came here and I told you that the reason why this vessel was set alight, was set ablaze, was to kill all the evidence. It was to kill all the evidence because each of these vessels, it has number, registration number that is going to trace it back to the owners, the companies that owns it. That is the reason why that vessel was actually set ablaze. Now you will tell me you haven't heard the government or the DSS questioning people who set such vessel alight. You will not see DSS going into investigation in that regard, but they will only be looking for IPOB and people that has committed no crime. Now, this vessel was caught. This vessel was set alight. Now, Asari Dokubo now summoned the courage because he has been given bribe. Believe you me, Asari Dokubo is one of those who are double agent in any field that they operate. You see, today he is actually claiming, I work for Tinubu. Give him small money now against Tinubu. He will turn 160 degrees against Tinubu, or even 190 degrees rather, or 360 against Tinubu. Just give him small money. He come online to declare his asset. Where is he working? Because they gave him money to come out there to say it is the military that are doing oil thief in Nigeria. That it is the military. Where are those IOCs? Because in all these oil thieves, where is the IOCs? Where is the NNPC? Who does the oversight? of every oil that is actually explored and every oil that is leaving the shores of Nigeria. What is the role of NNPC? Now, he came out to tell you it is the military, because military are nobody. Meanwhile, the president maybe who is actually, who maybe sent him to say what he said. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed force. He can easily convince the army otherwise. Tell the military what to do. He can easily tell the military, before we now extend this exposition against Asari Dokubo. Listen to it.
Than to rein in the oil thief.
Niger Delta.
Thief. But I argue that such a person shouldn't be called a thief, a patriotic Nigerian. He is a victim. He is someone who cannot sleep a night.
This is do mafia things, mafia stuff, and brought them period of time they come back thieving. They are the person that is supposed to be leading the load oil. Who is the oil thief? If the Mele Kyari is the chairman of NNPC, it means he is part of those, the IOCs, those who give pass. He controls everything. Those who give pass to those who will go and load their vessel. They answer to him. Why is he not brought for questioning? Why is he not brought in for drilling of the DSS? MFL was rushed into, disgraced, and apparently they say they found a gun in his house. A whole government of central bank, you found a small old Magnum in his house. It becomes a problem. A whole government of central bank, but Asari Dokubo possess Kala. No one has arrested him or brought him for questioning. A whole government of central bank, a politician, a person who worked for the state, possess an old Magnum of firearm. This old chakapo pasting. That's the reason why they changed the story. For you to see, if you do not dance to the tone of this government, they will deal with you. And because of maybe he did not dance to their tone, they say he was supporting IPOB. And that is the reason why I am speaking for him. Because they said he is supporting IPOB. Maybe he told them he is supporting IPOB. Or maybe he said something that is in support of IPOB. We didn't know. But when Nigeria come and start fighting anybody in the name they are supporting IPOB, it means there is something that person is doing differently. It doesn't necessarily mean that these people are supporting IPOB, but they are doing something differently. Or they are maybe working towards, bringing something that will bring a good benefit to the people of Nigeria. So automatically that person supports IPOB because IPOB is fighting for the benefit of the indigenous Nigerians. So that's exactly. So let us listen to this man, because he shared in that thing I told you. I said that they burned that vessel to destroy the evidence. All of those who set that vessel ablaze were supposed to be arrested, brought in for questioning. What was the reason why for them burning the vessel? They will tell you, no, we burnt the vessel because they want to send a message to those who own the vessel. How can you send a message to somebody you do not know, for goodness sake? So you know who owns it, just because maybe you are scared of him, you burn his vessel. Well, one oil that he stole from you will buy that vessels, maybe 3. We are going to be distracted in the next 5 minutes. So, but we are going to reinstate the broadcast. So, one vessel of oil that they stole will buy that vessel, maybe 5 of them. One vessel that was successfully stolen will buy 5 of them. You just burn the vessel saying you are sending a message. That is criminal. That is to show you from the IOC to the who are the pipeline guides, for who are the government of the day, to the police, to the investigation unit. All of them are in this syndicate. They are operating because whoever that is stealing this oil, maybe they are coming from Switzerland, maybe they are coming from, okay, United States. Because according to the report I had, it is also coming from Britain and United States. Let me check if I will find that report. The oil, okay, but let me finish this one. While it's playing, I'm looking for the report.
Well, I can tell you for in the Niger Delta because of mosquitoes and insecurity. Is someone who has properties in London, in Banana Island, in Abuja, in Frankfurt, in New York City. Those are the thieves. They have a lot of money. You may want to imagine the Joint Task Force for Prevention of Oil Thievery and Vandalism in the Niger Delta came as far ago as 1998. That is 25 years ago. And I can tell you for free that go to Krikri prison, go to Port Harcourt prison, go to Kogi prison, go to Kuje prison. You won't find any big oil thief.
No way.
None.
Yeah.
And even for these
None.
boys.
Did you see the reason why I told you that the criminals on the loose, the innocent people are in Krikri, the innocent people are in DSS custody, the innocent people are in the correctional facility, the criminals are on the loose. That is Nigeria for you, created by Britain. Let's continue.
When they are caught, they find a way and just die, you know. And so even this one, now that the vessel is burnt and the crude burnt and so on and so forth, after once or twice, even Rufai won't talk about it again. So that is the game, that is the story. The authorities know clearly who are behind it. The last time I think someone came on TV and showed clearly where all the stolen oil goes to. This particular oil, if you had allowed it, would have gone to either Britain or gone to America or gone to China or gone to India. They go to...
I think he solved exactly what I was looking for. He solved exactly what I was looking for, because I saw that in one of the pieces that I actually compiled. That's why I said that this broadcast is going to actually come in 2 different forms. Now, the oil thieves is going to Britain. The stolen oil is going to Britain, is going to US, is going to China. Now you come to the realization of what I've been telling you about China. Let's just avoid let's just sideline the US, the imperialist and the British imperialist. Let's just leave it behind because it has been on our neck. Let's actually bring in the new player that joined the market, China. I've told you that there are many stolen products that is being taken to China, that has been sold to China. Chinese are very, very, dangerous dangerous business brokers or negotiators. They are very, very dangerous negotiators when it comes to black market business. They are very good in buying black market. Now, I don't blame them. They are growing to be the world power, the world biggest economy. They are growing to be that. So they have to explore the means in which the colonial masters and imperialist governments actually explored in order to climb to the position where they are today. The oil, stolen oil, is going to the. I hope we are back. Are we back? Because we were kicked out. We were kicked out now. I believe we are back. Yes. Welcome back. Our time was finished. The stolen oil is going to United States. It is going to Britain. Now, if it is going to United States and Britain, Britain is the one who implemented the system that enables this oil to be stolen. Britain is the one who created a vacuum for subsidy to be implemented. Britain is the one who deindustrialized the economy of Nigeria to make sure. That's why any country that is created by Britain or any country that is colonized by Britain, before they leave, they make sure that there is deindustrialization. Any country that is created by French, they will never leave you, they will never leave. They deindustrialize you, which is Britain, and implement a system that will continue to work in their favor. They will be wherever they are, and they will continue to suck you dry. They will continue, their shadow will still be where your economic growth is supposed to come from. Their shadow will make sure that it overruns it. Britain. That's why to implement their neo-colonial tactics, they must deindustrialize your economy. Because you have to be dependent on them. They're your colonial master, so you must be dependent on them. They colonized you. You are their subject. They are your master. So being dependent on them enables them to come into your a kind of borrowed tech. You borrow tech in the name of Chevron. Is it Chevron or is it Shell or Chevron? Those who do oil exploration, you have to invite them so that they will come in the name that they establish their own business, their own company, and bring their own machineries to make sure that they are the ones in charge of the exploration of this original raw product. And they will now, from there, they give pass to the people who is going to be stealing it straight, because they are already there. They are in charge. They are in charge. Some of all this oil those companies that were benefiting from the oil subsidy, some of them are being managed by Europeans. I can categorically assure you, they are being managed by Europeans. That's why all these names that I called, if you replay this broadcast, you take all these names, you check who is their CEO, who is the manager, who is the founder. Just check it, you will find the connections. Because that's how you are going to actually break it down, to find out exactly where all these excesses, the problems are coming from. Now, when you finish breaking it down, you contextualize, you bring it back to the NNPC. Who runs the NNPC? Is it really Nigeria? Or is Nigeria just a ceremonial runner of NNPC? That's exactly the kind of things you need to bring through into this investigation. China is in for good. They are in for good. Doing what America and Britain did. Of course, we know that Britain is a lapdog to America. So they create the avenue that America will also benefit from. They create that avenue, the vacuum, which enables America to benefit from it. America have a lot of oil in Texas. There is so much oil. Yet there are still, this oil that is stolen is going to the United States. Oil that is stolen is going to Britain. At least Britain is understandable. They are the owner of Nigeria. They run Nigeria. Now China, who will bring higher bid. China don't mind bringing higher bid as long as it's a stolen product. They don't mind bringing higher bid to fill up their oil reserve. These people are filling up their oil reserve. Nigeria is actually emptying their own reserve, allowing criminals. And when you think about these criminals that is allowed, the president of Nigeria is a commander-in-chief of armed force that can give order. Things will change. Things will happen. DSS, which they decorated so much that you feel that they are more sophisticated than every other armed force in Nigeria. DSS is not doing anything other than acting like a state-owned thugs. They behave like state-owned thugs. DSS is a armed force of Nigeria that people of Nigeria need to call for its disbandment, because they are not doing anything. They are just wasteful expenditure. These are supposed to be Nigeria FBI, Nigeria intelligence that knows when there is a terrorist, attack, when it's supposed to happen. DSS is supposed to be Nigeria intelligence that knows who are these oil thief syndicates, who is actually, but they will not, because they are controlled by the president. They are presidential thugs, the way you will understand it, or those, you call them presidential thugs, whichever way of pronunciation you will understand, because people from Europe, they will still understand. Presidential thugs, those are the SSS in Nigeria. That's why you see them displaying their thugness. 3 days ago in front of court, they flout the order of court because they are lawmakers. They are not law enforcers. They don't even know the law. Talk more of enforcing it. Where they're supposed to be working, you will not find them there. Then where they are not supposed to be working, you will find them there, intimidating everyone, because they cover their faces, wear mufti, no police uniform, wear mufti, and be intimidating people who work with police. There is a story I just discovered coming out of South Africa. There is a story that is coming out of South Africa. South Africa is in Africa. Do you know that? South Africa is in Africa. I saw a story coming out of South Africa. A story of presidential convoy. Is presidential, those that are guiding the president in South Africa. Those that protect the president, they were called the VIPs. VIPs. They are those who govern, who actually protect the president. And the story says that they were driving in a highway, and there was a group of civilians who were driving in the same lane, or maybe they were driving, you remember that the convoy of a president, when it is moving, you must give it away. It is like when you see an ambulance, when you see police that is on duty, you give them a way to pass. That these people did not move away for the presidential VIP, vice presidential VIP, yes. And this VIP, some of them pulled over and stopped that vehicle and assaulted the people inside the vehicle. Do you know all of these VIPs, they were jailed? They are in police custody in South Africa, African country, right? South Africa is an African country, right? It's an African continent. All of these presidential VIP traveling with the vice president, they were all arrested for assaulting civilians driving on the road, blocking them from passing. They were all arrested. I think it says that there are 7 or 8 of them. And now they applied for bail. They were denied bail. Do you know the reason why they were denied bail because they are one of, as the story, I think I have it here. Okay, one of the person, remember that there is social media right now. Anything that transpired within the reach of the people, you will find it in social media. So the only thing that actually happened was the video is available, but it is not video that I will show you on social media, because when I saw the video, I followed the story. It is a video of violent, so the person who took the video, which is now going to be the witness, received a threat. So they denied those people bail, saying that they are going to, remember that bailing somebody who is arrested does not mean they are free. You bail them in order to continue the investigation, and once investigation is done, they can be convicted. Now, they said they will deny them bail because they are still tracing on who sent the threat message to the witness. These are presidential security. It is not just they are not thugs. These are presidential special squad in the armed force of South Africa. It's not thugs like Asari Dokubo. Special squad. They were arrested for beating up civilians. Oh, what a democratic country. I was so amazed that such thing exists in Africa. Then you come to Nigeria, you see DSS behaving like God of man in Nigeria. Untouchable. Go and see ordinary DSS passing, block your car, or don't move away from them. And if they can even shoot you dead, there. No one is going to be there for you. That is an epitome of the right of people are being, taken care of. A country that put their citizen first before any other police, government, anybody. They put their citizens first. That is, you saw when there was a riot in South Africa a few years ago. You didn't see police and army coming out to shoot people. It is Africa country. Yet Nigeria, who claim they are biggest economy, which is deindustrialized by Britain, they behave lawlessly. Anybody that is given a small position of power in Nigeria, they become God of the people. And not just God of the people, Satan of the people, because the devil does not have patience for you when you disobey him. If you disobey the devil, you are getting it immediately. At least God is a, as much as he's a consuming fire, he is also a loving God. So there is a law between a man and a God. And God, when he said yes, he says yes. If he give you life, he give you life. He does not take it until you make a decision that takes your life. So when you see the politicians in Nigeria, you see them, they become God of man, which makes life difficult for everybody there. DSS that are untouchable, holding Nnamdi Kanu, even when the court set him free. Not just now, 2015, court set him free. DSS refused to release him to go. So now you weigh the option. You check yourself. This British created country called Nigeria, is it created to actually work in the favor of those who dwell in it? Or is it created to work in the favor of the maker of the country? That's why your crude oil goes there for free, stolen. They will buy it for peanuts. This is a raw material. This is a raw, crude oil. If you refine a crude oil, you will get aviation petrol. You will get paraffin or kerosene. You will get diesel. Only one crude oil. You will get all these things from crude oil. Yet you will take it there. Remember, when you steal something, you want to let it go quickly. So any amount to give you, they just pay for logistics. By Britain, they will be paying only for the logistics. So at the end of the day, who is benefiting from the economy you call your own? It is Britain. Let me finish this thing, because this guy said a lot of things. I didn't know that he said actually this, but let me play it. Let's continue.
So these places, these vehicles are big enough, the world knows them. So everyone that is in authority knows them, except for maybe Rufai and Abati and myself. But they are well known. So those are the real oil thieves. The subsidy thieves, the subsidy racketeers. They're not saying, okay, you want subsidy to go. What of those who have been milking the system for the last several decades? Who brought in one shipload in, collected money for 10 shiploads, who brought no shipload, perfected papers, and collected money for 20 shiploads. And the racketing has been going on and on and on. And so if you just stop so-called oil subsidy and no one is going in for it, what have you done? Billions have been stolen. Nigerians have been fleeced. That is the game. It goes on.
Say it, Your Majesty.
They know who does it and who does not do it. And the reason why they prefer to present the face of a young, uneducated, unemployed person from the Niger Delta as a thief is to distract the world, because it looks more menacing and more interesting to see someone that has no shots, that is beating cancer every day in the name of crude oil theft, a few jerry cans, and then people will take shiploads. You can imagine a group of persons were taking away what Nigeria produces in a day in one ship. And the Nigerian authorities want to pretend that they don't know who are doing it. They don't know the terminal where it was loaded.
What
Don't
they
tell me
say.
that again. I don't want to hear that. Of course, you may also need to go and read the book, The Riddle of the Oil Thief. The whole story is there. It's a riddle.
This is an evidence to show you that all this oil thief syndicate is well known by the government of the day. But each and every government that comes into the position of leadership, they will find a way to make sure that these oil thieves are not unmasked, because they actually are the ones who make sure they put whoever that they want in the position of power. That's why I say, if this man in the position of power that you see there, they supported him to be there, and the reason why they will continue to support him to be there is, number one, they have found a way to take away the subsidy without regret, without regretting it at all, to put it on the shoulder of you, ordinary Nigeria that is grappling with a failed economy, that is grappling with lack of infrastructural development, no good school, no healthcare system, even the justice system is wobbly. They do not actually respect the justice system. That is exactly the reason why Nnamdi Kanu is still in the custody today. But guess what? The findings is with the appellate court. The appellate court, they have done all their investigation. That is the information They have done all their investigation. They found out there is nothing they could do to reverse the order of court, the verdict given in the case of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Do you know what they are planning? They are doing consultation now. If Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is not released in this September upcoming court case, that's when you will know it is on the personal vendetta that Tinubu is pulling up. I am telling you the honest truth. Get me, if I don't know if any of you in the comment section knows if they fix a date for election tribunal verdict. Do you know if they fix a date for election tribunal verdict? I want to actually evaluate something. If any of you knows the date of the election tribunal verdict, there is something I want to make out of it. Let's find out. I don't know. Does it have date yet? Is the date fixed? I don't think so. I don't think that the date is fixed. So now the election tribunal verdict will also have impact in what is going to happen. The reason why they extended the date to September, you will be finding out that the tribunal verdict, if it comes before, then we will tell you the confirmed information. The reason why I am asking you this, maybe I will confirm to see if there is a date given for the election tribunal where they will deliver the judgment. Then we will tell you exactly the report. Now, where you are finding the appellate court in their own capacity, they have scrutinized the judgment given to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu in the 13th of October 2022. They found out that the judgment was top-notch within the ambit of the law. They have nothing to actually say in that regard. It was as a result of the executive manipulations and towards the justice system, executive dictating and trying to control the justice system, that actually made Mazen Nnamdi Kanu to still be in the DSS facility. So they are busy now doing consultation. Now, if you understand it, the consultation is to know what the Tinubu stands for. If Mazen Nnamdi Kanu is not released in these upcoming court proceedings, if he is not released, you should know it is only as a result of the personal vendetta between him and the president on seat. Nothing else. Because the